Freedom and the machine. What is the relationship of freedom and the creative spirit? The love of the curve and repulse of the line has been in my ancestry for generations. Our surname Mead, although once I thought was a reference to an alcoholic drink, seeing as my father was an alcoholic. Actually, as I looked into the ancestry, it actually was short for meadows. So at one point, my forefathers identified with the field of nature so much they decided to name themselves after it. It was in my father, whom felt so out of place in the world unless he was adjacent to a lake and his hand held a fishing rod. The juxtaposition between cold city streets, concrete and grey, overcast mood matching the endless clouds above, and the noise and hustle and bustle of the public. The exhaust fumes of buses, bumper to bumper, red light tailed traffic, the scowls of the masses, and the indifference and apathy of the subway. How many times I've yearned to be consumed by nature and to be lost without network service and even to be free of the planes and the chemtrails in the sky. And the only thing I would softly chant to myself as I entered the boundary of the tree line of the woods would be further, further, further. Given these facts about oneself, I was devastatingly blindsided when I entranced in a rapture of freedom after my first ride of a motorbike. Decision made nonetheless in the apathetic economic cells of Excel. Given the astronomical heights that car insurance has now climbed in my country. It was all I could afford, so it was that or the bus. So, despite the dopaminergic forward motion governed by my ADHD and the delicious delights of self-designing a cut with my own album names, probably inspired by the Sons of Anarchy, I generally considered it a demotion from the safety of the car and the cold bite of weather I was doomed to embrace to my skin. The vibration of the twin engine between my thighs, though. Ooh, that beautiful weight of chrome. This machine that I traversed country bends and aimed through apexes. The rhythmic ascending crescendos of each gear and the ritualistic call and response of the throttle twisting and gear upward kicking. Oh yes, the rush of the spring morning air and the mist that settles above the vivacious green fields that blurred against my peripheries. The heat emanating from the exhaust, the smell of octane, and that seduction that has claimed so many lives. Yes, the edge of death giving the burning of life. And that freedom. Ooh, that sheer freedom that travelled through the length of my spine and frisson that rejuvenated my soul like water travelling to the roots of a parched tree. Oh yes, it was a good feeling, man. The rejection of planning and the natural revelation of one's destination. I could see how some motorcyclists rode for pleasure, although I must admit I casually, contemptfully considered such acts of hobbying. A to B was just an annoyance, one of tail lights and traffic, noise and pollution, the anger of nameless drivers and the illusion of impunity that steel and glass cages gave them, kind of a halfway in between of people on Twitter. Yes, that sweet, sweet protection of that screen. Oh, yes. I drew such a contrast between the grey of concrete and the green of nature. The apathy of cold engineering and the indifference of men's architecture that move through the world and the life force and the self-proclaimed gods of engineering. I developed the architectural misanthropy and love only for the landscapes of the wilderness and desired so totally to reside in the margin of the hinterlands. Yes, and no too many trees could be planted, but above all make them evergreen, for they can hide a secret year round. Yes, this experience caught me off guard and it created a thought train. What is the relationship between freedom and the creative temperament? Interesting indeed. You can learn a lot from things that give you strong emotions in the mind. For example, I've always deeply hated the busybody archetype. You know, those that sort of constantly scowl out of the window and they make a hobby of low rent gossip and the affairs of others. Yes, never liked that. Why is that? Don't know. It's this feeling of restriction, this feeling of surveillance, this unsettled ease of someone observing your every move, probably echoing things that happened in my childhood. Boo hoo, boo hoo, boo hoo. But freedom, yes, freedom indeed. That is something that I have always desired in my heart, to be free. Yes, and like Braveheart said, what will we do without freedom? How many have died for freedom? How many have killed for freedom? What empires were born or broken on the back of this premise? Indeed. So, why is freedom synonymous with creation? I created an obsidian brain for this question, and some of the resources would be Jung's what is it, on psychology and art and literature. I think that's what it's called. And then I've been reading Leonardo da Vinci's biography by Isaac something. Yes, freedom indeed. Interesting, eh? The more creative one is, the less chance he has gone through a traditional education, or the less a square can fit a circle, so to speak. I never learnt much in school. I am an autodidactic, an ADHD dopaminergic fiend. I can only travel along the roads that are meant for me. Indeed. So, two fundamental forces at work in both the human mind and spirit, universe and matter, chaos and order, yin and yang. Mirror images in reverse, two wings of the same bird and opposite sides of the same coin. There's all the idioms that you need. Yes, indeed. What is the relationship? I feel like more restriction, less creativity. We need space. We need liberty from affliction. Yes. In my heart, I often catastrophized worst case scenarios. Something that is beyond my conscious mind, unfortunately. Nightmares of the morning, horror-filled daydreams of the day, of my many fears, being locked into a cage, deprived of both sunlight and air, water and liberty to walk the meadows or the fields, to grow old and weak and to squander the years ones have in the same cramped walls is a fate far worse than death for me. Everything you fear, love and hate is a teacher in disguise. Yes, therefore freedom would be my heart's desire, and perhaps it's analogous to the Nietzschean thesis of the natural human desire for power. Not power in the tyrannical, anti-wokey, political class sense, but the same very inherent desire one has to find the boundaries of your territory. The same living force that drove Columbus to the Americas. The same force that if someone says to you, this is your boundary and you may never exit this boundary, you would feel unfulfilled, unsatisfied, and do everything in your power to expand your boundary. And then I could expand it and expand it and expand it. I could say this bedroom is, and then you would break free and say, no, this cannot be. I'll say, okay, this house is, and you would break free. And then I would say, okay, this acreage is, and you would say no and break free. And no matter I give you the boundary, you will desire to break free. It is just a human response. Indeed. One's greatest fears, irritants, and desires and loves are all silent teachers as disguise, as we just said. And every time you question them, you can learn things about your heart. How many boundaries does one have to break in order to create something novel? And what combination of alchemicals will produce a new result or a new transformation? Or how many colours can you combine to create a new colour? We must be free from restriction in order to find our creative spirit. The delineation of boundaries, categories, and defined borders. Creativity isn't simply talent, but a mindset of childlike, boundless freedom and endless curiosity. We need space, we need freedom, we need the boundaries to be dissolved in order to discover new territory. This territory may be physical, spiritual, introspective, territory of the soul. But every true creative, just like Columbus, will be on the fringe and boundaries in order to find something truly new. Therefore, in your life, find the novel, question like a child, search out like a starving anorexic the food of your soul. Do not fear failure. Do not fear being less than the other. Destroy perfectionism. Overcome self-criticism. And for goodness sake, don't worry about being cringe.